last days. I have the pleasure to invite on stage Damian, Sheridan, well, Jessica, come first, our lady here. Jessica Gillingham, founder of Abode Worldwide, Antonio Bortolotti, is World Summit, Vacation Rental World Summit founder and CEO, and Damian Sheridan from Scale Rentals and Book Direct. Well, good afternoon, and as Simon was mentioning, today we're going to talk a little bit about brand building. And Lovemarks is a term, just for you, a quick introduction, that was introduced by Kevin Roberts, who was the former CEO of Saatchi and Saatchi Group, and in 2003. And well, for those who have been brand builders, and personally myself, it was kind of a revelation to find out, you know, what were the values and the key, let's say, you know, milestones to build up a brand that goes, whose feelings or the feelings that your customers will have about you go beyond any, you know, normal brand. So Lovemarks is defined as a brand that really, you know, loved by, has lovers, basically. This is what's simplified what's about. So it has to have mystery, it has to have authenticity, it has to have some kind of intimacy with our customers, and basically today we're going to talk about how we can build up Lovemarks and have lover guests with our brands, okay? So, well, having said, or having just introduced the subject, well, could you just give me a first approach of, you know, what you know, how you can make that happen in terms of, you know, how to build up, in your case, as a property manager and as an event founder and CEO, how do you achieve that? How can you achieve that?
Start. Well, I hold my hands up here. I said this during our prep call. I'm one of those people who, about 5 years ago, thought branding and all of this was just a name, a tagline, and a logo. Boom, there's your branding. Learned a lot, especially during COVID, and we started our Scale series of events. And it took me a while, but to realize that really for me, branding, and what we're talking about with Marks here, is everything you do. And that's your tone, your value, your mission, everything, the way you speak, what you want to get across. So way beyond the kind of the digital or visual element. So this is something I've become acutely aware of over the last 4 or 5 years. And to make that kind of emotional connection, as you were talking about, I think it's really difficult these days. And I think with automation, it's made most of our businesses, we're kind of more segregated away from hospitality and the way that we perhaps used to be. So to connect with our guests is a lot more difficult now. But that said, there are lots of ways we can do this. Now I've stayed in Barcelona probably at short-term rental places probably 20 times over the last few years. I'm yet to find one property that has given me any kind of connection that I would go back to at all. And there are so many reasons for that: lack of communication, lack of just a really shit experience when I was staying there. Really poor quality facilities, etc. So if I feel like I'm being cared for within the stay, I think that's, for me, is the most important thing. I feel like I'm valued. I'm a guest that they want to have back. And yeah, I mean, I stayed at a place in Marseille about 5 years ago, and the simplest thing I had a connection with, they had a blackboard which they use for every guest. It said, "Bonjour, Damian." It had the 3-day forecast, and welcome to Marseille. That meant so much to me, zero cost to them. So I think you don't have to have premium properties in order to build a connection with your guest. I think there are so many really simple ways to communicate, and I think these are the things we should all be working on to find some kind of connection, whatever it is that it may be for you or for your guest or that target kind of audience who you're looking to work with.
Well, if you think that we are in the hospitality industry, the first thing that comes to mind to me is you have to be hospitable. So that's basically goes to what you're saying right now. It is quite hard to define a brand as like a name or a logo, but if you start thinking that you are your brand as your company, and if you ideally are in this business, you should ideally be in business because you love giving people a memorable experience. And of course, there's also the business side of it that in return, you get an ROI for your investment. But first and foremost, you start with your heart. And when you do things with your heart, your brand shines through because people feel they're taken care of. You care about them. So in practice, what we do, there's many little things that can be done, from like little handwritten notes. You don't find that many. You go into a property, and how many of you have found a handwritten note saying, "Welcome to our property"? Now, we're talking property management here, so I am aware that certain things may be difficult to scale, because how many, handwritten notes would you need to write every day for all your guests? In this sense, there can be some ways to overcome the problem, but little things, little touch points that build the connection, the emotional connection to your guests are those that can make a difference and can make them remember who you are. For example, a little thing that can achieve with technology, and this is scalable then, even on the property management side, is if you have in your properties devices like Alexas or some devices that can have music on. What we do normally when our guests come in, we try to create the ambience for when they get into a place. Imagine you get there at night, you get the keys in a locker or whatever, open the apartment, it's dark, you need to switch on the lights, do these kind of things. With technology, you could have lights switched on at a certain point after dark, or as we do, you could have like music on. What we normally do is just like jazz style, Sinatra style, something that normally is quite nice as an ambience. You get into a house and you feel that the house is alive. There's lights, there's music. I remember one time Heather Bayer in her podcast years ago said that she used to even have scents with diffusers in the room. So you touch the senses of who's coming in there. The eyes, smell, the ears, and they immediately get them in a mood that makes you go like, whoa, this is different from the property I stayed at last time or any property that I stayed in before. So, and this goes back to hospitality. The other thing is communication. You were saying earlier, lack of communication. You had terrible stays also because of lack of communication. Communication is key. So instant communication with your guests. What we do is normally we reach them via WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is so instant that it allows you to solve any issues, be there for them, let them know that if you have any problem, you are there, makes you solve problems, or it makes you lower the complaint score that you may get, and it reflects in reviews as well. So there's many little things that you can do on a daily basis. Some of them can be scalable, replicable. Others are a little more difficult depending on the size of your company. But if you think, again, that if you start from the heart, and if you ideally are that host, it will be, your brand will result in the way you do things nicely, and if you do them well, if you're well organized, embrace technology, you definitely have like lots of return for what you're doing. Another thing probably many of you here are also doing, and if you are not, I encourage you to do that, is again, provide them with information before they arrive. We give them, I'm sure many of you do here, a welcome guide. We use Touch Stay, which is a fantastic tool that gives our guests before their stay all the information they need, and this reflects in the reviews that people say. Many times they say, well, we had incredible communication from the very first moment. We knew exactly what to do, where to eat. We had all these suggestions. Antonio was the most hospitable host ever. They say lots of things that then tend to define who you are to the next people, those that are reading reviews, or the friends of those that stayed at your property. It was a little too long, but I tried to give my...
It's perfect. You spoke about technology. Technology is facilitator of basically what we have to know is our guest, right? The more information you get from them, the better experience you will deliver over a mid or long term. The first time is complicated, but you can have some hints. You also spoke about what Kevin Roberts calls or names SISOVO, which is sight, sound, and motion. And so what you see, yeah.
There is one aspect that I love about it, and it's also in the event that we've been doing for 10 years, is the surprise element.
Yep.
The surprise element taps into deep emotions of the person. So if you're able to get it right, it's going to set you up here. And if I can give an example, I could give you some examples, not about our event, but like property management-wise. If you, with technology, you get the data, the detail before, pre-filling the form for check-in, the birthday. And maybe the day they check in, it's someone's birthday in there. So you can leave like a handwritten note, happy birthday, you can leave a little gift, or there's a family with kids. You can organize, and I know there's Enrique Alcantara, maybe some of you know him here. He does a fantastic thing, which is a scavenger hunt for the kids. So basically, he organizes something where the kids check in with the parents, and there's sort of like little things that they need to, like candies in different places, and then they find at the end a treasure hunt. This is something that, just imagine, you enter there, and go like, whoa, and that defines your brand. So surprise, of course, a good surprise, but with technology today, you are in the position to collect enough information to then decide how you're going to use them.
That's true, and Alsha was mentioning technology as a tool, and not only during the stay, but pre-stay, also during and after, so you just make that experience even longer to get that loyalty. So Jessica, tell us a little bit about it, what you think about it.
Yeah, I've loved what these two have said and everything I would agree with, but I would also probably say it's kind of broader as well, and it's about, and also that first bit that you talked about is those love marks, but it's creating that loyalty as well. So everything, having that connection creates that customer loyalty and stakeholder loyalty. So it's not just guests, it might also be your staff or your owners or your partners. They understand what you stand for, and they understand the connection with you. So it sort of goes beyond the kind of the customer experience. It's that they understand what it is that you create for them and what they will get from you as well. So there's that consistency across all touch points, right from the inspiration stage of booking right through to checkout and then beyond, So it's a really interesting topic, all the different elements of what makes a brand.
Yeah.
If I could just add something, just on top of what the guys were saying. Pets, if you accept pets, they are essentially extended family members for most travellers who travel with pets. So if you can provide treats, a bowl for a dog, a little towel to clean up afterwards, that's something I've seen work so well and drive so many repeat bookings. So taking care of the guest, if you know there is one coming, goes a long way to forming a real connection with your traveller who's could come again and again and again based on that.
Yeah. Do you have any specific example that you had? Well, you both are, hosts, but also not only in the property management industry, but also with the properties, but also at the events. Is there any parallelism? Do you think that is are there any differences, any similarities? What can you see that you can apply? I mean, from your experience in events, as having a guest, or having a guest, considering having a guest as the same as having a guest at an event. How do you
I guess there's a couple of ways. So for those of you who don't know, I run a series of shows called the Scale Shows around Europe. For me, the similarity is being, you mentioned the word authentic earlier on, Alex, and being real is a big part of this. I come across many websites in my role as an SEO strategist as well. Websites where a lot of companies, they're very anonymous. There's no reality there. There's no team pictures. There's no message coming from the company. There's no passion there to say, are you passionate about sustainability, diversity? Is there a mission statement or something like that? There's no message there. There's not even a phone number sometimes. There's just an inquiry box. So being authentic and being present, for me, goes a long way. With our scale events, myself and Joe Palo, we try to be present and real and accessible. I think being accessible to people goes an awful long way.
So in your case?
Yeah, I agree totally, 100%. I mean, on our side as well, you ask if it's the same guest or someone, and for me the answer is yes. For me, I care about people, and so if they're coming to my property or if they're coming to the event that we've been putting up for 10 years, I do want that they get the most out of it for the time that they are staying there. So it really makes a difference, and over the course of 10 years, I've heard lots of feedback. We listen to it, and we adjust to make sure we provide the best experience ever. I listened to lots of feedback, and some of the nicest things that I heard a few times by people said, like, what we like about your event is that we feel taken care of. It's a community, it's a family, we feel home. So that's why we keep coming back and over and over and over again, and we tell other people, they come, and after the first time they say, like, I didn't expect it was like this, I want to come over. It's the same thing with the properties. You get guests in your properties, you treat them well, you treat them nice, you really care. What they'll do is they'll want to reward you for what you gave them, and they do it in many different ways. They'll write a review, and they'll say wonders about it. They'll talk to friends and say, go there, because there's no other property like that. So to me, it's exactly the same thing. It's like I'm hospitable. This is hospitality. And as you're saying, genuine, authentic, people feel it. I mean, if you fake it, they'll feel it. If you're genuine, they'll feel it.
Yeah.
So that makes all the difference to me.
And is there, for our property managers, is there any way to start, kind of thinking about creating your own Lovemark? Is there a path that you can just, advise? Is there several, milestones, any milestones that you can think about? Maybe you, Jessica.
So I think the fundamental thing is do a very, very good job every single time. That's one thing. The other thing to think about is what does your business stand for? What is the purpose of the business? And then who are your customers? And we can, quite often we don't always really look at our customers. They're quite broad, where it's actually who are our exact customers that we want to target. We heard Verbo talk about, very strongly in that presentation that Verbo is for families. Other OTAs will be for other kinds of customers, and it's the same with property managers in any business. It's who are your customers? Do you understand what they need and what they want? So that's really getting to that. So it's those two things. It's what do you as a business stand for? What's your purpose? What are your values? What's your mission and your vision? And then how does that translate for what your customers' needs are and what they're interested in? And then it's building it up. It's building the culture within that then can be translated out through your marketing, through your communications, through your standard operating procedures. Everything will have that stream through it that is your brand, so that every touch point that a customer or a partner or a member of your team they have the same experience. Now, sometimes they won't, and it'll go wrong, and then it's like dealing with that in a way that really matches your brand.
Yeah, we were having a conversation previously to this panel. We were together talking about how important it is to also create that kind of, if we can call it strategy, but to create that feeling of loving and caring about others from the inside out. So that is, first our people, right? And then how those people can deliver that message of love and caring to the outer, or to the rest of our guests, no? So what you think about that? Is that something that's possible? Is that something that has to be planned? Because that will probably affect the life of your brand and your company over time, and then we'll discuss about that in a minute.
Well, quite simply, for me, if you don't love what you're doing, your guest is not going to love what you're doing and what you're providing. And if that passion doesn't come out in some kind of way, it's going to be very hard to drive a direct booking for a start, but also if you're not doing it perhaps on your listings on OTAs, if you're not using imagery or wording to try and appeal to those who perhaps need a bit of love, perhaps the LGBTQ community, or people who just need a message, just to say I'm welcome there. That's really quite rare still in our industry. So I think building upon that, building upon your passion really is the main thing. And if you have a passion, which I would hope everyone here does, get that message out and make sure it's easily accessible to all of your guests.
You mentioned something, Jessica, that's, you've got to put, I understood that. You have to put all, consciousness. We were just watching before Ansho talking about the level of consciousness of your business and how that level of consciousness will drive you to success. But it's also, on the small details, and that's probably not everyone that joins a company has that. And I know that you guys are very, practical as well. We are kind of transcendental, if you can say that, but we're also very practical. So there's a lot of education behind that small detail, because what you can see, it's got to be this way. Maybe someone who joins the company doesn't see it in the same way. So there's also how to translate that culture or values, internal values, to your day-to-day work, right, and your people's performance. So is there anything, guys, that I know you just take care of all the small details that you can say about educating your staff?
Well, first and foremost, once you do the work before of sort of like an introspective work that defines your values, who you are, what you do, why you do what you do, what is your driver, what is your big mission, then you're able to distill the answers into paper, and that is the starting point to create procedures, standards, and even flowcharts. That also, ideally, a forward-thinking entrepreneur who thinks this way is in the position then to identify even the people that he wants in his team and then nurture them again. Again, to being hospital, being genuine. I mean, it's like giving water to a plant. If you've got someone joining your company and you care, you're going to train the person. You're going to be a leader. There's a big difference between leader and boss. And some people don't understand and don't get it. So if you think at companies like Apple or other ones that are leading the way, there's this culture inside where there's this value. I mean, Steve Jobs is no longer here, but yet, so probably he's been able to distill the big whys, form procedures, and then train people to follow that direction. And it's not machines. We're always human beings, so when you're training someone, you have to put your heart and mind and soul into making sure that everything is aligned and the person there is really marrying the cause. So that is probably the secret of transcending and making sure you have a legacy that goes beyond yourself when you're no longer here.
Right. Want to add anything on that?
I would just agree that culture comes from leadership, so the leadership embodies the culture and then it will translate down. But it has to be worked at all of the time as well. It's not just a document that you draw up and you kind of hand to your team. It's something that every day is worked into every aspect of the business and all of your interactions that you might be having.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because in fact, all of us will probably want to make things with love, but you also have to show that love in the everyday actions and in the processes and protocols and methodology. And that's not only just wording, it's also about facts, right? That definitely is something, as you said, Antonio, that will help your company be more worthy, right? Over the long run. And this is something that our property managers, not only just, in case they want to just, at some point of their lives, they would just want to sell out or get rid of it, but also if there is a generation shift, from parents to sons or daughters, that's something that I would rather give my children something that's got more value than something that's just, brick and mortar, right? So, any ways that you believe that this, value creation could be measured at some point? And yeah, go ahead, yeah, please. Damian, go ahead.
I think it's very hard to actually measure it in that way. I think when we're looking at, say, core values of a company, they can change. Branding, your Lovemarks, everything can change. But I think regular involvement of your team, having regular communication for me is really important, and that includes your children if that's who you're handing down to. So no, for me it's hard to actually to gauge that as such.
I believe in a case like where you're driven by core values, at the same time building on what was said this morning at the presentation on inspiration. You build for a legacy, but the results then come if you do things a certain way. You need to develop the skills, and then you also need to bring results. But the results come as a result of the way you lead your business, if you're capable of doing things and if you're skilled. When you have results, then you have the fundamentals, right? And those are numbers that can be measured. So if you want to, it's nice, probably Simon would have lots to say about this right now. It's nice to talk about love and nice, but at the end of the day, if you're thinking about selling, for example, who's there to buy, you need to give data, the details, how much is worth, what's your churn, what you make every year, how is the operations, how is it structured. That's how we can value it and then sell it.
Jessica, we have time out.
Can I get
sure. We can have a couple of more minutes, right, Simon?
So I think that if you haven't got a brand, what you have is a commodity or something that's transactional. So, and perhaps for a property management company, it's the value of the contracts that you have with your owners. However, if you've got a brand around that, you've got something that is more valuable and that can last beyond you. So exit doesn't always mean selling. It might mean retiring and having somebody else run it, or it might be selling it to your employees, or something like that. And if you've got something that is beyond just the contracts, that can survive and live and breathe as an entity, then that is more valuable. But it would be very interesting to hear what Simon has to say when it actually comes to valuation.
I'm sure that Simon would be very happy about valuation of Lovemarks, right, Simon? And yeah, it has to be with emotions and how we can create emotions, and emotions basically is just to push, gently to push our guests into our arms, right, as hosts. And I think that you guys have, the key for creating more value than just, a set of properties in vacational units. It's just about how you care about your guests, how you transmit that love and care to your employees and people, and how we take care of the small details. I just want to close this by thanking you for your time, for your knowledge, and for your love to our audience. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.